Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Hey Sister. Hey Sister, how you doing?
I'm doing great, sister. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's been a busy weekend for me. I still have my stuff set up behind me. I hadn't broken it down yet for the event last night, but it's been good. And I just got off for our virtual student send off. You see, I have my Xavier representing. So, our Central Florida Alumni chapter, we had our virtual student send off this afternoon. And we welcome some new students to the Xavier family, getting them ready and prepared to go off to campus.
Nice. Yes, we had the Southern University Alumni Federation Arizona chapter had our virtual student send off on Tuesday night. So yes, we have some students from Arizona that are headed down to Louisiana, and we are praying traveling mercies on all of those babies, especially those who had decided that they were going to get on the road and drive.
Yes, so traveling mercies, safety, and good health, and all those things. We know that the universities have done what is within their span of control in terms of preparing and preparation of having folks back on campus, and so we're praying for everyone.
Yes.
So we have a few people tuning in right now. We have Cam. Hey, Cam. We have our super fan Jody. Hey, Jody. How you doing this evening? So what we'd like to do, everybody, is before we dive into our topics tonight is to tell you to join the conversation in the comments. We want to hear from you. We want to have a very robust dialogue because tonight we're going to be talking about some things. Of course, it's the evening of hot topics, but we're also going to be talking about things that are going to impact our life, and that is the vice presidential selection process. And so we have some varying perspectives to share there. So join the conversation in the comments. We also would ask that you follow, and share this broadcast. We're streaming to you live right now on both Facebook and YouTube. And we sincerely thank you all for being a part of the Hey Sister family. Hey, Nashana, thanks for tuning in tonight. So we're going to get started with our hot topics this evening. And I guess this is probably one of the hottest topics right now. So I'll start with this one. It's Black is King. How many of you out there watch Black is King? It is Beyonce's visual album, her latest visual album that is inspired by the live action film of The Lion King, which she was also a part of that project and did a soundtrack for The Lion King. And so this is the visual representation of that music. I hadn't had a chance to watch it yet. I've seen a lot to talk about it. Sister, I know you've watched it. Most people are familiar with her first visual album in Lemonade. And so how did Black is King stand up or stack up?
That's a bit of an unfair question because I never really watched Lemonade.
Oh, okay. So then I watched Lemonade. So there we go. We got that. All right, we got some more folks watching tonight. Hey, Aaron. Hey, Chelsea. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah,
If y'all watch Black is King, please chime in the comments and get into this conversation.
Yeah, I didn't watch Lemonade like fully. I know that, of course, we've all seen pieces of it over the years, but I did sit and I watched Black is King, and I thought it was fantastic. And I just love the vibrancy of it, the colors, the people and the artists from around the globe who were featured, the dancing, the singing, everything. I thought it was really, really well done. And I think the main thing, I was going to tweet and make a joke and be like, yeah, well, hey, maybe Beyonce will single-handedly end colorism for us. But, that's a joke because I would not ever put that kind of weight on her shoulders. But I did appreciate just seeing everybody, all the different visual representations of people in the visual album. And so and the scenery was beautiful, and of course we love seeing Miss Blue Ivy doing her thing. But I think it just makes me be like, oh, I got to get my life together, child. Beyonce out here making full-on visual albums that take a year and having 3 babies and all this stuff. I better put in some more work or something. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Folks, tell us what you think about the visual album. So I didn't get a chance to see it yet. I look forward to seeing it. My daughter and I plan to watch it together. The number one priority she had this weekend was to watch the season 2 of The Umbrella Academy on Netflix. And so we spent Friday night way into the 1 o'clock of the morning hour, watching binge watching The Umbrella Academy. So that's how I spend my Friday. So I'll get to Black is King. The pieces and clips and snippets that I've seen, it looks fantastic and phenomenal. So I'm excited about witnessing it because I think that there's definitely a lot of beauty to behold. Another thing that we want to talk about in Hot Topics is Stella, girl. Now, last week, there were a group of physicians who went before, I don't know. Did they invite themselves to the White House? I don't know.
I don't think it was at the White House. I think it
Congress, the step of Congress or something. I don't know. Y'all got to get into this. So we dropped here in the comment section so you can read the article. So one of those physicians, her name is Dr. Stella Immanuel. She's gotten most of the press from this event and her prescription for treating COVID-19. And it was a video that was shared, and all the social media platforms were removing the video because they considered it as misinformation. And so I guess, I don't know if they were trying to take a stance finally on, putting out misinformation or disinformation, what have you. But while there were several doctors out there in their white coats, she was the one who got the most press because she spoke most fervently and most, I guess, very strong and wrong. And, if you're strong and wrong, you can make the news. And then the president would think you're a very fine doctor, even though he's never met you. I'm just so confused. But what was interesting is I had a few people from my hometown who I got into an exchange with about this. And I just was like, stop it.
Please do tell, not people from your hometown. It's not possible.
Stop it. So all I know is I didn't call no names. I commented when I needed to comment when I saw their original post. I didn't say no names. But then when all of the things about Stella started to emerge about her belief that demon semen is causing disease. I don't know if you read that part or
that part.
Girl, the demon semen is causing the ovarian cyst and some other things she said about witches and witchcraft. I was like, oh, I don't see nobody riding hard for Stella today now. Like, so what's up, people? What? Denise Toops, you from my hometown. I see you being messy right there. Honey.
They had a change of heart. Did they decide they did not want Stella to be their primary care physician?
One said, oh, they're too busy because these, a couple of them actually work in healthcare. And
how, in what capacity?
Not revealing all of that. But all I'm gonna say is, so one of them, listen, this is the rub. What was funny to me is that the reply was, some of us are too busy working with patients to reply on social media. I was like thinking to myself, did you not take the time to send this message on social media to tell me you didn't have time to reply? Clearly you was reading and you was in your feelings. But I didn't call no names. Oh, they still defending it, Denise? Oh gosh.
Well, tell them that I said she got some clinics in Louisiana. Oh no, they're closed now. Sorry. Pack up and go to Texas and go and bring your kids, since you have such strong beliefs in what Stella is doing. Bring your family, make her your primary care physician. And if you believe in her work, you don't even have to worry about insurance. Just go ahead and pay out of pocket because you know she's going to do such an excellent job.
Yes. All I know is we dropped the link in from the Medium article, and then when you see about the litany of offices that she has opened between Louisiana and Texas, people can be physicians, can be board certified physicians, and still be questionable in terms of scientific practice and as well as ethical practice. And I'll just leave Stella right there because I don't think we need to talk about Stella.
Well, I just want to be fair. According to the article, Stella is licensed in the state of Texas as of November of 2019. Coincidentally, coinciding right around that COVID coming out in China or what have you. But they have not yet found records of her where she actually went to medical school.
So, I thought she went to medical school in her native country and then moved to the state.
Yeah, she's Cameroonian, but they say she went to school in Nigeria, but they haven't found evidence that she went to medical school there. So, but perhaps.
I don't have no tea in this cup, but I'll just go ahead and sip this water right here. That's all I got to say.
But read the article. It's fascinating. The part that I did read was fascinating.
So I have another one whose comment says, "It's rough out here in your hometown, girl. Common sense, not so common." I'm praying for y'all. And what's really sad right now is that Louisiana is having a resurgence, a significant resurgence of COVID-19. So much so that a friend sent me a text yesterday and saying, "I'm sorry." I was like, "I don't know why you're apologizing to me. I mean, I appreciate the sentiment, but hey, we still in a hot spot over here in Florida. We do seem to be kind of, plateauing here. So hopefully we don't just plateau, but we go back in the other direction. But like you said, common sense is not common. I mean, we have a congressman from Texas saying that he must have got the virus on his mask. And when he put the mask on, even though he never really wore a real mask, because I don't know if y'all saw, he would just had that little bandana tied around his face, Mr. Gohmert. Anyway, all I can do is just.
Well, we know it's real because I don't know if you're going to the next hot topic, but we know who went to glory this week.
Well, I didn't put him on here in hot topics, but go ahead. Let's talk about he is definitely Herman Cain. I mean, just go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know that he was at the rally in Tulsa and he was out there living his best life. And now he is no longer on this side of glory, but hopefully it was worth it for him. For me, it's just like, is wearing a mask that challenging? Is it really that challenging? I really wish he might have considered other things, especially because he had already survived cancer. So I wish he might have thought differently about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, that's one of the really sad things to have been a cancer survivor. I mean, he was successful in business. He was a Morehouse grad. He had a very rich and robust life. He ran for president at one time. Not that I agree with him necessarily in any of his politics or most of the things he said, but I mean, Mr. Gaddes was the hot thing at some point in time. So all I know is that one of the things that's really has struck me about this entire time is that Americans are a bunch of punks, for lack of a better term. And I'm going to tell you why I think that a bunch of punks. During World War II, like people had to make serious sacrifices, collective sacrifices, right? In order for the noble cause. it is so just sad that we as a nation who say we love this country so much, like they said, they got a bunch of faux patriots or fake triots out here. There are a bunch of fake triots out there. We love this country so much that we could not make a sacrifice of really shutting down. We could not even demand that our federal government respond like a federal government is supposed to in times of crises and have a national plan. We have 50 state plans, and however many cities are in each state, we have that number of local plans. It's absolutely absurd. For something that is an epidemic or a pandemic, you can't have a hodgepodge piecemeal approach. Like, there are some functions of government that you do have to execute at the federal level. And I was saying this back in, when we first started talking about this, about a coordinated federal plan, about really using the Defense Powers Act in a very smart and strategic way. It's shameful that we don't have testing ramped up. I mean, if in February you would have asked all of those DNA companies that can send you a kit to your house for saliva that you send back and can be tested, everybody in this country should have been able to get a test kit sent to their house to test themselves. Then we could be having common sense approach to who needed to be isolated, who needed to go back, could actually go back into workforce, and who could actually be going back into school. And what's interesting is I was on this podcast last week, and one of the hostesses is from Australia, and she had to fly to Australia because of her father is gravely ill. But when she landed in that country, she has to they isolate them in a hotel for 14 days before they can even go out into the country. Mm. So, she got a plan to be there for a long period of time because there ain't no playing around. So I'm like, no sacrifice? I don't know. I think we're a bunch of punks in this country. That's just my opinion. I don't know. What you think, sister?
I don't know if I'd use the word punks, but I definitely would say that we have, there is a lot of selfishness, a lot of utter disregard for our fellow man. Again, even with what's happening. So here in Arizona, where the unemployment ran out, or it ended, and even the governor's response, it was really problematic for me, because he was basically like, we don't have money to continue it. But Arizona is already, their unemployment is far less than the other states in the first place. So, even things like that, when you talk about how then because some people had to go back to work because they weren't able to afford not to, right? Mm-hmm. And then some people opted to stay on unemployment because, again, sadly, in this country, some people are making more money on unemployment than they are going to a job. And to me, that is the issue. Like, that is a problem. I don't understand how we think it's okay to live in a place where we have such poor education, such high rates of homelessness, such, people living under the poverty line, and then something like this happens, and it really puts a spotlight on all of these issues that we already had. And then instead of using this as a time to address them, it's like we're in a hole and we just keep digging ourselves in a deeper hole. That's why I'm like, well, clearly we don't want to go back to work. Clearly we don't want to go back outside. Because if we did, we would just be like, shut it down, give it 6 weeks, let's get this thing under control, and then we can progress. But just doesn't seem like we want to do that. So I guess we'll be inside until Christmas.
Yes, I guess we will be. And so we got a few comments here. I don't get the disdain with mask. I don't either. A disjointed mess. And then this comment here. I don't either. All these people want to say, I can't wear one because I have a medical condition. What are you doing in public during a pandemic with a medical condition? Great question. That is an absolutely fantastic question to ask. Oh boy, I tell you. Well, let's talk about this other hot topic that came to the forefront this week. And I tell you, this one really kind of got under my skin so bad. I did one little post about it, but oh my word. Do you want to take the lead here, sister? Because truly, I have no words.
Well, I will just ask you some questions into
Ask me some questions, please.
our lovely viewers right now. So I usually vote in person.
Okay.
I get the ballots in the mail, but I personally, this is just Christina, personally feel like I need to go in there because I need to see the shenanigans for myself. But don't you have to mail in your absentee ballots?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can do it a couple of ways, at least. So for the past many years, I can't even tell you how many years, I have volunteered at the polls with the sorority. Mm-hmm. When you work at the polls or when you sign up to be a poll worker, they automatically send you an absentee ballot because you cannot vote on election day, right? And so what happens is you get that in a nice envelope. They send you a postage paid return envelope. You have to sign it, and then you go ahead and mail it in. Here in Orange County, and I think most of the supervisors of elections around this state, you can now actually go online and see if your ballot was actually counted. So after that election day, when they actually run the ballots through the machine, you can go online and verify that your ballot was received. And so, to hear the man in the White House talk about mail-in is awful, but absentee is great. I was like, but you mail in the absentee ballot.
That's what I thought. That's how I had fixed it in my mind.
Like what?
And then is it not true that he himself has mailed in ballots in the past? He and his family members.
So what's very interesting, I mean, I'm talking about like probably some many years of absentee because he has a residence and maintains a residence in Florida, but has been living where? In New York? So come on, man, stop the bull. But the thing that gets me is people hear this stuff and actually believe it. And I'm like, have you ever voted by mail before? I mean, actually, early voting and voting by mail to me is some of the easiest way to go. And
I guess my question is, before he made these comments, did they have a problem with the mail-in system? And so if, because I feel like military people who are stationed overseas, they mail in their ballots. I feel like people who are working overseas, but they're U.S. citizens, mail in their ballots. I feel like a lot of politicians mail in their ballots. And as a matter of fact, most of the politicians, when you see them go and vote on election day, it's largely symbolic so that they can, hey, I'm voting for myself. But I kind of thought that this was a practice that had been going on for quite some time. So I guess I'm wondering why all of a sudden this massive distrust in the voting by mail system.
You know, what's interesting, I think that there are actually 5 states that's all they do is vote by mail. I mean, you have to think a lot of us who live in more densely populated areas. Even though we're from Louisiana, which is still more rural, there are still areas that are densely populated. I mean, people who live in, Montana, it's a lot of wide open spaces. A lot of the people, they vote by mail. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So let's see, we got some comments here. One comment is, how many on a percentage actually earn more on unemployment? I feel this is a conservative misdirection. Mm-hmm. I've kind of been feeling the same way, but I think when you take in that we have a very large service, our employment in this country is mostly a service-based employment, right? And those are most of who are most severely impacted. So those who are restaurant workers and waitresses and bartenders, who they actually make a lot of their money on tips, but so their salary is significantly lower. But even if you know that the U.S. minimum wage is still $7.25, people are full-time employed making less than $600 a week at $7.25 an hour. They're making about $300 a week. And so I think, to Christina's point earlier, the larger point is, why do we continue to accept that? Why do we continue to accept that? Another comment here says, I don't trust the mail-in voting only because the post office in Thibodaux done lost their mind. They suck. And I want to be sure I vote against this Cheeto. I got you. Another comment here, common sense ain't common. Vote no matter what. Absolutely. Another comment here, what about him putting his boy over the United States Postal Service to slow down the process? He also owns companies that is in direct competition of the USPS. Absolutely. There's a lot of shenanigans going on, but I think what it really amplifies, and as we talked about, this week they had the final funeral services for John Lewis. If voting wasn't so important, people wouldn't be trying to disrupt it so much.
Right. And again, where I stand on it is, if you have an issue, a serious issue with mail-in voting, okay, fine. But then have a serious issue about disenfranchisement in general. If you have a serious issue with disenfranchisement, then you wouldn't like to see how we have states that are purposely closing down voting areas, shrinking them by 80-something% or more. Mm-hmm. You would have a problem with the fact that you have students who may go to school out of state, but their driver's license is in their home state. And so they are being turned around, and it's not deemed a valid form of ID. Here, when I've gone vote, now in this state, you get a card, an ID, a voter ID card, but that's not sufficient enough. So now I have to also pull out my driver's license. Well, why? If I'm showing you that I'm a registered voter, it doesn't matter if I drive. So who cares if I drive? So, and I have been standing in the line and voting, and because this is also a state where you can bring your mail-in ballots to the polling place the day of the election. So I've seen somebody walk up holding two, and this is for my mother-in-law. How you know that's for his mother-in-law? But you take them and it's fine. So again, if you have an issue with disenfranchisement, then have an issue across the board. But don't just put this on some mail-in voting when statistics already show that mail-in voting is not. There's not these large percentages of fraud in the mail-in system. Like Chelsea said, voter suppression is real. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. So go hard for that if you're going hard for something about mail-in voting.
And so what's interesting is that fraudulent voting is very rare as well. And then some of the most recent cases we've seen have been on the conservative side, right? It's, at least the cases here in the state of Florida. And it's like, wait, I thought y'all were the ones who saying about, that's why y'all need all these other people IDs, is because they're it's really crazy. But to your point, that if you are going to be, if you're not a fake patriot and a true patriot, you believe that voting is a right that every citizen, that once they've reached the age of 18, should be able to participate in, and should be able to participate in freely and without impediment. And so we should be trying to remove impediments, and we should be making it easier. And so I do agree. Election day should be a national holiday. As a matter of fact, why not just move it to a Saturday? Forget, the and the reason why, I mean, this is the other thing that's so funny, when Trump was making this comments about, oh, he don't want to have to wait months to find out. Well, when they set up the process years ago, they did have to wait months. Like, I was like, do you not know U.S. history, fool?
No.
Like, what the? Oh,
he does not know U.S. history.
It was on this Tuesday, so people from the farmlands, everybody can come and vote, and then they had time to travel back and still had time to work their fields. It was done in November, so that by December 31st, it could be you have the final results by December 31st, and then you had the inauguration in January.
Right.
Like that.
Well, again, this is somebody who tweeted about everybody should not have the privilege of voting. And at the end of the day, that's the problem. Voting is not a privilege. It is a right. And everybody who is registered should be entitled to do it. And it shouldn't matter, again, whether you have a driver's license or a state ID, as long as you are here and give us all voter ID cards then. So...
Well, anyway, listen, what else? I don't know. Anyway, we ain't gonna solve that. We definitely not gonna solve that knowledge gap today.
But everybody within the sound of my voice,
hello,
please, I don't care what it takes. Please vote. Yes. Please go and vote.
And for those of you who have high school seniors who will be turning 18 before November, please make sure that they are pre-registered, so that on their 18th birthday, that their names will then be on the voters' rolls. So if you have children, they may not even be in high school. They might already be freshmen in college, right? Because people going to college earlier. Make sure that they are pre-registered, so that they can get on the voter rolls and talk about the importance of this election. Because if they are young people and they're going on to college, and their education depends on this election. So, all right, our final topic for this evening, and it's going to be the topic we spend the most time on, is because it's got 150. So we thought there was a lot of people in the running for president.
Oh man,
sister, y'all. So right now, what's been in the news, one of the biggest hot topics out there are the vice presidential contenders of the Democratic nominee, one Joseph R. Biden. And I dropped them into the comments here, this one New York Times article that goes through the 13. Y'all see me blinking my eyes. 13 potential candidates. I'm like, some of y'all, I don't even know who you is, girl. It's all women. So kudos to Joe for making the assertion that he was going to select a woman. Mm-hmm. And it is about time we have a woman, because actually women are the majority in terms of population in this country. We're actually 50.8% of the population. So it's high time that it be a woman.
Yep.
actually it's high time that there's a woman as president in this country. Because you know what's also an interesting fact as it relates to coronavirus, and y'all could do the research. The countries that are doing better with coronavirus are all led by who?
Women.
Women. So I think we have a unique set of skills. But let's get into some of these names, sister. Who do y'all want to talk about first? Folks, y'all jump in the comments and tell us who y'all want to talk about first, because they got like a whole heap, a lot of them.
Well, listen, first, as we wait for folks to populate the names that they want to talk about, I'm going to say this again. Don't let anybody make you feel bad about all the people who ran for president on the Democratic ticket or for the nomination or all the vice presidential conditions. Because again, we know that we got what we got. He was on the junior varsity team when the Republicans was doing this 4 years ago. It feels like 150 years ago.
You mean the Pee Wee League? Because I don't even think he was on the junior varsity team. But once again, if you don't use that beautiful skill that the Lord gave you in discernment, and if you don't actually every now and then do this, what did I just do?
Open a book to read.
Open the dang on book. If you don't never do those two things, then you know that's on you, because that you will listen to and believe anything. And I kind of quoted those quotes the other day. The quote by Voltaire. I'll put it in the comments here. But you know, at some point you have to read it for yourself.
My point there was Pee Wee League, indeed. He came from the Pee Wee League, and
he been Pee Weeing on us ever since.
Exactly.
Aren't y'all tired of getting Pee Weed on? I mean, the state of our union right now is so very tenuous, and it's so very like I don't even understand like where we are right now, because it is so very scary.
I don't understand where we are again when we politicize everything, including wearing some masks. That for me is where I'm just like, I don't know.
But I don't know either. Well, we got a couple comments here in terms of who folks want to talk about. I'm dropping in these two quotes here that I posted earlier this week on my personal page, because I think they kind of really sum up everything. So the first one is from Voltaire. I remember having to read Voltaire back in high school, his English class. It says, "Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities." And we've seen atrocities that have been committed in the last few weeks. We've seen federal troops attack American citizens. We've seen people attack their fellow citizens because they are believing absurdities. And we see people who are posting and sharing someone who says that you can that demon semen is what causes you to have ovarian cysts. Yeah, that part.
Well, for some of these people, maybe that was the situation. I don't know who they were dealing with. Okay?
Well, maybe. I don't know. Well, the other one says is blind belief in authority is the greatest enemy of truth. And right now, there has been a war has been being waged on truth and truth telling. So the first person up that folks want to talk about is one Val Demings. So Val Demings is the former Orlando City Police Chief. She's currently serving in the Congress, representing Florida, actually here in the Central Florida area where I'm from. She's one of our state representatives. And she most recently really made a name for herself in the impeachment trial. She was one of those who were a part of the impeachment team on the Democratic side. She did a really good job. She serves on a couple really big committees in and just the Judiciary Committee and what have you, and just did a really good job in some of her questioning just throughout the entire leading up process to the impeachment, as well as to the entire investigation into the things that went on into the 2016 election. She's very well loved in this area. Her husband is currently the Orange County mayor. He's also a former police chief as well. They been going to the same church for many years, and that's what every interaction I've had with her, when I have had interactions with her and her husband, they're really just down to earth people. I think she's one of those who's considered a very strong contender right now, and that's what I have to say about Val Demings. What do you think, sister? Have you researched or read about Miss Val Demings?
Congresswoman Val Demings. I don't know a whole lot about Val Demings more than what you and I have discussed. I think the only thing that the only concern that I have is the name recognition. Okay, people try to pretend like this politics is not about popularity, because a lot of people don't do a lot of research. So. And so I think back to when Hillary Clinton selected Tim Kaine, and I was like, who? And so I think that she definitely would have a stronghold in Central Florida. And we know Florida itself is one of those swing states that always finds itself in a controversy when it's time for a national election. But I just don't know how she would resonate throughout the rest of the United States.
Yeah. All right. So that is our take there.
All right.
All right. We have another comment here. It says, perfectly Biden wins. We need to think whoever he chooses quite possibly will be our first woman president, and I prefer Rice. And so let's talk about then one Miss Susan Rice, who's a former UN ambassador. What are your thoughts on Susan Rice, sister?
I think that Susan Rice has a lot of the foreign policy experience that is definitely needed. She has obviously more name recognition, and she has worked in a powerful Democratic administration. However, of course, we know that her name is going to be tied or linked, to Benghazi, and we're going to bring that foolery back up, even though, no offense to the people who were, the families of those who were killed in Benghazi, but I think that we're going to make an issue out of something that is a non-issue, unfortunately.
Well, it's interesting. I saw an interview with her recently, and so she is former national security advisor. She is a former UN ambassador. I saw this interview with her recently, and it is unfortunate. There was a terrorist attack. The information she was given, she went out to the public with it, and she probably should have vetted that information more before they kind of verified that it was a terrorist attack. There were 4 Americans who lost their lives, but we also know that there's been an attack in Niger, where we had young men who lost their lives. And I am trying to think of the number, but we know there was also the young man in Florida, because that was a whole kerfuffle with Trump not calling the family, right, and what have you. Then there was the bounty issue with Russian, intelligence reports saying that Russia had been paying people to attack U.S. Officers in Afghanistan. We also had, and this thing kind of went away really fast, but we actually had in Pensacola, Florida, someone who it was a Saudi Arabian, I believe, and I'll have to double check that, but who, I can't remember if he was a Saudi or Afghani, but nonetheless, he was in Pensacola, and he was at the base there and killed people. Like, this happened like at the end of 2019. And all of this has happened under the Trump administration, on top of 150,000 plus people dying from a pandemic. So if they want to bring up Benghazi, I'm like, game on.
Yeah, I mean, you say game on. I would probably say, yeah. I mean, there's more than enough that can be brought up about the Trump administration, but unfortunately, and I really don't know why, it seems like a lot of times the Democratic Party folks try to play this. They try to play Mr. and Mrs. Nice Guy, and I don't understand why. And if I mean, call a spade a spade. If somebody is going to pull something out on you, then let's talk about what's happened. You don't have to, I'm not saying that you should bully people like Trump or walk around them and stalk them while you're trying to debate them. But I do think that if we're going to call it, in the words of Usher, if I'm going to tell it, I got to tell it all. Like, you're not going to just pull one out on me and then I don't get to pull one out on you. But unfortunately, like I said, I feel like a lot of times Democrats are like very tenuous about doing that. I don't know why.
I think they too many times they like to attack their own instead of really
that too
attacking the others. Because I tell you one thing, them Republicans know how to do, baby. They know how to circle the wagons. I don't care how foolish, how ignorant. I don't care if you've molested children.
Right.
I don't care if you've raped women. We sure gonna come and I don't care if you stole money. We gonna rally the troops and be right behind you. Yeah. So
that it's like either if we're gonna play ball, but if not, then you're gonna constantly find yourself stifled every time somebody brings up something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one of the comments we have here says, I'd like Val, Kamala, or Susan as VP, but I'd love Senator Harris to take over RBG's Supreme Court seat. I feel that too. I would love for Kamala because of her experience as, she is a brilliant legal mind, and you can see that, and you can see the way in the Judiciary Committee when she has questioned, those witnesses on any number of cases, when she's questioning them. She really dissects everything. So I do believe that she would make a really strong Supreme Court nominee as well. But if we're going to talk about Kamala for a moment here, let's go ahead and get into, I'm sick and tired of folks trying to come for this sister.
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of folks on the inside trying to come for her, and I'm sick and tired of folks on the outside trying to come for her. Like, if we're going to tell it, she's probably one of the smartest. She's probably one of the most competent. She was the state attorney general for the state of for the state of California. She's been a prosecutor. She's now been in the U.S. Senate for a couple of years. The sister knows her stuff. So all of this other foolishness, y'all need to stop. I don't care if her husband a white man. Like, that needs to stop. She did her job well as a prosecutor, so you mad because some people who are black people went to jail under her. But
I'm gonna suggest that black people probably went to jail everywhere. I think that's part of the problem. We have a school to prison pipeline, and there's a lot of black people going to jail in every state. And again, we didn't see the same way she's been attacked for her prosecutorial record. We didn't see that for Amy Klobuchar. And so I don't understand why.
And we only saw it for Amy Klobuchar after we had to witness the murder of George Floyd. And then it was like, oh, so what was going on up there?
Right.
What's going on up there in Minnesota? That's when you wanted to take a closer look at her prosecutorial record.
Right. I think that, the comment that Raquel had, that you just had up from Raquel, it was interesting because as I was just reading it, I think Kamala would be amazing on the Supreme Court. I think that she would be amazing. I've heard Attorney General even, but I also feel like But every one of those women that you just listed there, as she also commented, they're more qualified than Trump. And so it's just it's very unfortunate that we got to play this game, or this game gets played with us, shall I say, where it's like, oh, she's too ambitious, or she's only trying to be the president. She should be trying to be the president. Joe Biden is 150 years old. And so if whoever,
and Trump is 149.
Exactly. So
see, that's another thing. This whole thing about Biden is so both of the ancestors, both of them are men that are well into their 7th century, not century, but their 7th decade. Y'all know, I know it's not centuries, but into their 7th decade.
And by all means, I want to be clear, because there was a commercial here in Arizona. I don't know if you guys had it there, where they were trying to play Joe Biden about forgetting his lines, or like he was having some kind of dementia, and it's like he's not fit to be president. And I was like, they know him and Trump like what? They like 4 years apart. That's like me and you. Right. I mean, come on, y'all sitting up here acting like he a spring chicken. Come on, Trump
he said he's not a spring chicken. So I rather Biden have a few slip ups or miss something, because he actually has a lot of information going through his brain versus actually hearing somebody speak, and those are the words actually coming out of his mouth. Because I mean, we've all misspoken, right? Like we all have had a misstep. We all have been thinking something and that came out and we're like, oh, dang, shouldn't have said that and shouldn't have said it like that, right? I mean, that has happened to the best of us. Right. But for someone who that is literally how he speaks on a regular basis and doesn't speak in complete sentences, but you good with that? Okay.
Well, my point is that for the people within the Democratic Party who are suggesting that Kamala is too ambitious, I'm just like, first of all, we never say that about a white man. Like, that ambition become a bad word, and that she only wants to be president. Again, anybody who
anybody who ever sought the office, that's what they wanted, right?
Well, not only that, and anybody who's the vice presidential contender, particularly when someone is in their late 70s. We've had people who have gotten assassinated, and the vice president has had to assume that role. Like, you should be thinking about what things you might do if you were unexpectedly put in that position. I mean, I don't think that that's an unrealistic idea. I don't know.
I don't either. And I will say this, Joe's mom lived to be 92. So
yeah, that's true. So he got good genes.
Good genes, good DNA. So okay, some more of these comments here. I really like Rice too. My concern is that she will not galvanize voters as a running mate. Okay, that's something else. Demon semen is real. Okay. Val Demings is well-rounded and qualified. Yes, St. Mark AME, by the way. I wasn't trying to put the Lady Church out there because I don't know who might be watching this, girl. I don't want them coming up to y'all church, but I guess the church doors is closed right now. So we had someone in agreement with us, and the journalist who was killed and story pushed under the rug. Yeah, there's so many atrocities that have happened under this administration. Let's see. Democrats will call for your resignation before House Republicans. Shaking my head. Guilty until proven guilty. Yeah, that's for sure. And yes, it's what they should want. You're absolutely right. If you are a contender for vice president, you should want to assume the role of president at some point, because it's likely that you can assume the role.
From Jaime and the one from Michelle.
Let's see. Michelle says, I don't care what anyone says. I'm still riding with Kamala, although I will support whoever it is. Yep. Jaime says we need a high energy and vocal running mate to balance Biden, a person who do the job herself after Biden leaves. Okay.
Could do the job herself.
Could. Yes. Yeah. Could do the job herself after Biden leaves. Well,
yeah, I think now vocal and high energy. I think to balance Biden, I don't know about the balance. We know Joe we may have to be like, Uncle Joe, bring it down, bring it on down. you know.
I don't know if he got that in him like he used to. We got another one. Harris is a good counterbalance to Biden. We need energy, and as good as Rice is, I'm just not sure. Well, like I said, we dropped the article and the comments from the New York Times. You guys can read more about them. So again, you have Kamala, who is relatively young from Senate. She's a current senator. We've talked about Kamala, we talked about Susan Rice, we talked about Val Demings. Now we haven't talked about the other, yes, so there's Karen Bass, who is the current congresswoman from Florida. I'm not Florida. I keep saying Florida instead of California. I guess both coasts. So, Florida ain't got no good, strong women anywhere like that. Not well, not multiple, like, because it's like we got multiple Black women candidates out of California,
Right.
So but yes, Val Demings is a strong Black woman candidate from the state of Florida. But so we have Karen Bass, we got Elizabeth Warren. Haven't heard anything else about Elizabeth Warren. I don't know what are y'all thinking, or how y'all feeling about Elizabeth Warren? We know Karen Bass is recently been brought up in the news, and Marco Rubio want to talk about her going to Cuba in 1973. And I'm like, boy, you wasn't even born. Was you born in 1973? What? Stop it with this foolishness. Like, I cannot with you right now.
Well, that to me shows that, we're grasping at straws. And I think even though Keisha Lance Bottoms is further down the list, I think, again, the same thing was happening with Brian Kemp trying to do this lawsuit against her. I think it's just a way to muddy these people's names in order to create, yet another dog whistle to the base. So in the case of Karen Bass, it's like, hey, she went to Cuba in 1973 and she said these things about Fidel Castro.
And he died. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She
said
things about him when he died.
Which, I mean, that's what most people do. But nonetheless, if it's a dog whistle to the Cuban population there in Florida, that's what he's trying to set it up for, So it's very much about sullying, again, just making sure that we put a little dirt on it for a few folks' names.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, really the swing area of Florida is this I-4 corridor. So between Daytona all over to Tampa, this I-4 corridor, the Central Florida area, is the big swing area. And that's where Val Demings has a lot of high name recognition. Now, another name that's brought up here is Senator Tammy Duckworth. And I think Senator Tammy Duckworth is actually a very strong candidate. She is from the state of Illinois. She's been a senator for the past 3 years. She's also a veteran, which we don't have many veterans. She is a W amputee. She is a new mom. She has her young babies, and I think that she, in terms of really hitting a lot of perspectives, or life experiences that are needed to be had in the conversation. I think having her would be I think she can represent very well, and as a mother, as an older mother, right? Because she's 52. So, as an older mother with young children and going through issues trying to conceive. So she understands the health implications of that. Being an amputee and having been in veterans and worked in Veterans Affairs, I think she has a lot of things on her side. I don't know. What do you think about Senator Duckworth?
Well, I guess my only question to you is, do you think that she would be seen as, you remember when, what was it? Teddy Roosevelt or Franklin that had that was handicapped, and I don't know which one, Teddy or Franklin. I can't remember. Franklin. Okay, and then they were like, they disguised that because They didn't want.
She walks around with her prosthetics all the time.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, though, are Americans ready? So it's enough that, you know, the question of a woman comes up. Are they ready for a woman? The question of a Black woman comes up. Are they ready for a Black woman or a person of color? Then she's a double amputee. Are they ready for this? Because, you know, in a lot of Americans' minds, this place is perfect. It's utopia. We can't ever show weakness or show anything that's less than perfect. Are they really ready to embrace that? That's my only question. I don't mind. But I question if others do.
Right.
And it's sad that you have to question it. But
here's the thing. She became the first U.S. senator actually to give birth while in office. Right. And so I just think that she is, I mean, she did IVF. I mean, I think she's a badass chick. And I'm not sure what her family lineage is as well, but she is a woman of color as well. I think she's a strong contender. So someone said no on Warren. So I don't know. I guess we don't have to talk about that one a whole lot. Somebody said Liz needs a real plan to cancel my student loans, then we can talk. Someone brought up Stacey Abrams, and so I think Stacey Abrams is probably not a very strong contender, and you can read about it in the article. But I also think she's not a very strong contender because I think Stacey is needed for her organizing, and I think she will have a place in the cabinet. But I also think that Stacey should have been running for Senate in Georgia, and she probably could have won it this time around. So that's my personal feeling about Stacey. So I think both that. So there's Stacey, Gretchen Whitmer, Michelle Grisham, Senator Tammy Baldwin, who's also Tammy Baldwin is the first openly gay senator. But I don't think those women have as strong of a chance. I think to all the things you talked about with name recognition, I don't think their national profile is as solid. And I think that it's like Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan. There's a lot of things been happening in Michigan, and with people coming up into your state building and with their guns and stuff and threatening you, girl. I don't know.
But again, I just have to I just have to reiterate, we are talking about women whose resumes, I mean, how sad is it that these women are vice presidential contenders with the resumes that they have, and we dealing with what we dealing with in the White House, and not even just in the White House, even his full-on administration,
all up and through,
the people who've come, the people who've gone, the people who went to jail, the people who are being let out of jail, even though they shouldn't be being let out of jail. Like, how crazy is it that as women, we have to be like at this such a high level to even be considered vice presidential? Like, it sounds like every one of these women could be, I mean, based on what we have today, could be the president of the United States.
Absolutely. And so Raquel had put here that the Texas governor is in a wheelchair. That's true. Right. And then we have this, can you overcome too much and still be relatable? Hearing all she's overcome makes me feel a little inadequate, like I need to go save some babies. Girl, you better go out there and save some babies. But hey, you a mother, you've done your part. So,
and she works in a hospital. Was a nurse. So
I'm about to say you was a physicist as well, girl. Go sit down somewhere talking about what you need to overcome. I don't want to hear nothing from you, Nishana. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Another comment here: people are never ready for change. We must unfortunately be dragged kicking and screaming into a better space. Sadly, that's human nature. And that is very sad and unfortunate. It's shameful that these women are vying for second chair. Exactly. How sad that they took a chance on our lives and voted him in. I'm still in disbelief that he is part of the history of president.
I feel the same exact way. It is very just, I very often am like, we elected a reality show. I won't even call him a star because I don't think that The Apprentice had that great of ratings either. And forever, he will be etched in the history of this country. And if we have post offices, there will be, his picture. He will go up on the walls in the White House. And for me, it's like how people are not embarrassed. Like, you should just be embarrassed. I'm not, let politics aside, because I think that there are people, there are Republicans, there are people who don't believe what I believe, but I know that they're smart, or they're well read, or they've traveled, or they know something about foreign policy. And I just feel like folks should be really embarrassed that this is what we got.
Yep.
Really, I don't know.
But it is definitely a reaction to have had the first Black president. Right? Because every time in history, you go back to Reconstruction, or you go back to after the Civil Rights Movement, whenever progress was being made in terms of racial equity or even women's equity and equality, we get a backlash. We get a huge backlash. So
but then you have to fall so far. Like Jeb Bush could have been the president.
Jeb Bush could have been the president. I mean, what's his name? The Ohio governor.
Yes, John
Kasich.
Yes.
I mean, heck, I'd have even took little Marco Rubio at this point. I mean, even though sometimes I'm like, at least I believe he reads,
Right.
Now when he posting pictures of Elijah Cummings for John Lewis, that was problematic, but other than that,
right.
How about that part? Oh,
when they all working in the same place.
Said, like, is this real life? Yes, that's how we. Oh, for sure. Stop it, Lakeisha. Stop it. Oh, yeah. So I dropped in another article in for you all and just kind of see what's happening in terms of these Democratic options. I think that as we already have stated, that there are all of these women based on their resume, based on their experience, based on their education qualifications. I mean, that they can speak in
military experience.
Experience. I just think that they're all really, really, they're all strong candidates. And even those who are not as at the top of the list of consideration, or who I don't think, because I don't know, I don't have no inside track, but even those who I don't think are on the top of the list is for consideration, like a Gretchen Whitmer, like a Michelle Grisham, like a Keisha Lance Bottoms, like a Stacey Abrams, like a Tammy Baldwin, they all will be better than what we got. I mean, at least I think so. But here's the thing. The president assembles a team. Then the vice president is just one of those people on the team. So the good news with listening to all of these women and their qualifications, he has options to make one hell of a team.
Yeah.
One hell of a team. Because the truth be told, and this is my last thing on my wish list, and I know he might not do it, but I really want him to name his first Supreme Court nominee to be one Barack Hussein Obama.
Well, I mean, But I feel like Barack out here, because listen, he could have picked Michelle as his running mate and Barack put him on the Supreme Court. But the thing is, they out here living their best life. They like, we ain't worried about y'all no more. I'm sorry. We see y'all. And we gonna tweet.
We see y'all over there.
We gonna show
We
up.
gonna stay up over here. Okay, while y'all over there, we gonna stay over here.
We're gonna do a fire eulogy. We're gonna go on a tour for our book, but they like, why? Why do we
start a podcast? Michelle really living her best life. She like, finally, damn.
Right. So I just don't think they're gonna mess with us no more. I think they're done with us.
I think that would be fire.
It would be amazing. It would be amazing if he made him a Supreme Court justice. And again, if they made Kamala, if she's not VP, if she's AG,
Attorney General, yes,
fine. There are a lot of options. Just
save us.
Yes.
So the first things first, back to what we talked about. This is how we're gonna end this show.
Yeah.
Y'all better get out here and vote. And you need to vote up and down the ballot. You need to vote for school board. You need to vote for sheriff. You need to vote for judges. You need to vote for congressman. You need to vote for senator. You need to vote for dog catcher. You need to vote everybody up and down. Look at Keisha talking about wearing them thigh-high boots. Girl, you know it too. Some Balenciagas, the one that looks like socks. That's what she was wearing on. Girl, stop it. But vote up and down the ballot. Vote for every candidate. Do your research. We dropped some articles in here. Get out here and do some research and make the best choice for you. And whether you vote in person, early, absentee, or mail-in.
Well, I'm going to slightly edit that. Don't make the best choice for you. Make the best choice for the greater good, because sometimes this is not about you. You know? Sometimes we need to step back and stop thinking about ourselves. I don't like to pay more taxes. I don't like when we have to, when our taxes are increased. But at the end of the day, I have to ask myself, number one, has God put you in a position that you can actually pay them? If that's the case, you're doing better than a lot of people in this country. And the second part of it is, we know how stuff gets funded around here. We can't complain about potholes in the streets and then don't want to pay taxes. We can't complain about the school systems being jacked up, but then don't want increases in taxes. So please, I would say, don't think about yourself. Think about the people who did have to go back to work in the midst of this coronavirus. Mm-hmm. I mean, go physically back into work. Think about
the people never stopped working.
Some people never stopped working. Yes. Many people in the healthcare system never stopped working. Think about the people who are,
workers haven't stopped working. Amazon line workers, because y'all want to order everything from Amazon, they ain't stopped working. They cutting the United States Postal Service, but they ain't stopped working.
Right.
Because you still getting your mail at your house.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Just sometimes we are in a much better position. If we really look at the overall statistics, we are in a much better position than a lot of people in this country. I started this all talking about Beyonce and I got to do more with myself. But the fact of the matter is, Beyonce and those folks, like they said, even with the Beyoncés, the LeBron James, Oprahs of the world, Black people, our income is, our wealth is like, I want to say 80% or something. It's a significantly lower than the overall wealth of our white counterparts. So it's easy to think about your own situation, but there are people who are suffering. Think about them, man. If you don't think about nobody else, think about them. At least that's my
well, think about them, think about your children, but whatever you do, get out there and vote like your life depends on it, because it most certainly does, because we got global warming, we got more pandemics to come, and if you plan on living a long time, like I plan on living a long time, we got to do better in this country. We need broadband all over the country. People should not have to be trying to get access to get on the internet for their children. We need some high-speed rail to get me all up and down the East Coast. It makes no sense for you have to you know, do all of this just to go up. And I mean, high speed rail should be able to, you should be able to live in Austin, Texas and go to Dallas and go to Houston and work, because they do it in
And you shouldn't be sitting up here, you know, got all these commercials talking about folks taking from China, but then you go to Walmart every day buying stuff that's made in China. Let's bring manufacturing back to the United States if that's the case.
Yes. And so I'm going to drop in yesterday, and this is going to be my last thing, because I keep saying it's going to be my last thing. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to participate in the an expo with the Black Coffee Company. Y'all go to this site. There's a list of Black entrepreneurs, and you can support small Black-owned businesses and in a meaningful way, because a little bit investment in terms of our products and services goes a long way. And so with that, we're going to be signing off tonight on Hey Sister. We'll see you next week. We have a guest with us next week, but we just want to come, just us tonight, talk about these hot topics and these vice presidential candidates. And you all be safe out there, and we'll see you next Sunday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.